I'm Russell Ronnebaum. I'm the resident music director at the Rogue Theatre, and I'm playing a harpsichord on this production of Tartuffe. This was the most preeminent keyboard instrument before the piano, from about the 13th century to about the 17th century. The key defining factor of a harpsichord is it plucks a string rather than what a piano does, and it hits a string with a hammer. Underneath this protective area are all of our plectrum. So once it hits, it falls down a little bit so the mechanism doesn't rest on the string. And if you want the string to keep vibrating, you have to hold the note down. That's different than piano, because you could use a pedal on a piano. So this is coupled right now. It's playing both units together. The red is a felt dampener that when the key comes down the rest of the way, it kind of mutes that. So, I think everyone knows the Addams Family theme. The harpsichord really came back into fashion in the 20th century. There were a lot of composers that were kind of found it novel and started incorporating it again. It doesn't matter how hard or soft you strike a harpsichord, like you can really smack a note or play it very softly, and it gives you the same volume. The harpsichord makes up for that by having two keyboards which have different colors of timbres of string, so I can couple them together and get a slightly bigger sound. It has a really fun quality about it, and there's that pluck. But in that lightness, you don't have a lot of sustainability, so if you ever heard like Amadeus or opera, there's recitative where you hear a lot of flashy rolls, and part of the reason for doing that is to keep the sound going a little bit longer. In the French Baroque music, especially stuff I picked for this production, really leans into that period, mid-1600 French Baroque, where you have a lot of ornamentation to kind of. And this is really peak ornamentation. Some of the music that I'm playing by Francois Couperin, who literally wrote the treatise on the art of playing the harpsichord. And he was one of the first people to really codify how to do all those little trills and ornamentations. There is a really fun performance practice in this kind of music where you're really encouraged as a performer to improvise. And it really wasn't until Francois Couperin that these ornaments got written into the music. The forms of it comes really from the Italianate school of dances, which have very strict form. You really need somewhat predictable form for dancers to dance to. Couperin and other composers of his time, they were starting to think outside the box and elevate it, and wrote a lot of character pieces. A character piece uses kind of the articulation and certain chords or qualities to help you paint a picture. It tries to put you into a mood, into a space. For example, a piece that I wrote for the show, there's a character who is just really, really sad and heartbroken, comes in, so there's a plodding in that bass line, and a forlorn, a little sunshine. So you hear how it just kind of pulls on your heartstrings. I mean, it's in a minor key, that's a starter, but there's other figures, how you deal with the bass line, how it walks up. Just, ooh. Another quality of this instrument is it does have a second mechanism for plucking, and this is called the lute. So this is what engages the lute. This one disengages this bottom keyboard, so you could technically practice on it or pull in another set of strings, which is up an octave higher. It's currently out of tune. I haven't been using that one for this production. So these are kind of the little levers here, and then we have the sliding action, which couples, and you can see how physically some 17th century technology. It literally has to play both keys by a mechanism. Having the two keyboards that can be coupled is it's part of the French design. This harpsichord comes on loan from St. Philip's Episcopal Church. They have an early music society, and they have this instrument and maintain it very well, and very lucky to secure it, to have something that really would be as close as we can get to the original sound of 17th century harpsichord.